This is The Space Shot, episode 168 for October 29th, 2017. John Glenn and Discovery. Hey everyone, welcome to The Space Shot, your daily space history, pop culture, and news fix. I'm John Molnix.
T-minus 10, 9, 8. We have a go for engine start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery with a crew of 6 astronaut heroes and 1 American legend.
On October 29th, 1998, the first American astronaut to orbit the Earth flew in space again for his second and final mission. John Glenn became an American hero when his Friendship 7 capsule flew into space on February 20th, 1962. His historic orbital flight wasn't even 5 hours long, but it secured Glenn a place in the history book, as well as in the hearts of the American public. John Glenn was a hero in every sense of the word. He flew combat missions during World War II and the Korean War. After his days as a fighter pilot, Glenn continued to fly, accumulating thousands of hours in jet aircraft. He was selected as one of the original Mercury 7 astronauts and flew into space on the third flight of Project Mercury. After his time at NASA ended in the mid-1960s, he entered the private sector and later began a long-lived career in politics. He won 4 consecutive terms as the senator from Ohio, and he was a member of the Senate when he flew into space on this day in 1998, the third time that a sitting politician had done so.
We are pleased to be joined this afternoon by another of NASA's original 7 Mercury astronauts, Scott Carpenter, and he has a special message for the crew aboard Discovery.
Yes, at this point in the count, it seems appropriate to say to the Shuttle Discovery crew, good luck, have a safe flight, and to say once again, Godspeed, John Glenn.
The STS-95 mission with the Shuttle Discovery was a nearly 9-day-long mission that conducted biomedical research, among many other things. The measurements obtained on Senator Glenn during the shuttle mission were compared with the data that was gathered during his first flight on Friendship 7 in 1962. Scientists wanted to see how those measurements had changed in the 36 years that had elapsed between Glenn's space flights.
The best part is do a trite old statement, 0G, and I feel fine.
Roger that. We had a bunch of your friends asking about you today, and they were wondering how you're feeling, and I'm sure they're glad to hear that.
First report is great. I don't know what happens on down the line, but today is beautiful and great, and Hawaii is I just can't even describe it.
Well, I dare say you'll see that view a couple more times before you come back.
One of the studies he took part in looked at how astronauts sleep in space. Sleep disorders are common among the elderly and astronauts, so his flight into space at the age of 77 gave scientists a very interesting test subject. I remember my grandma and grandpa talking about this shuttle mission, and I remember seeing the news that Glenn was going to fly into space again. I was 11 when the launch took place, and I remember seeing news footage of Glenn and the other astronauts preparing to board the shuttle. Even though I didn't see this launch live, it's one of those positive and unifying experiences that will always be with me and any of us that watched or remember that flight. Glenn's second flight into space is something that transcended generations. Younger people watched as one of the heroes of the space race was launched into orbit one last time. I think that his second flight lived up to the namesake of his first spacecraft, Friendship 7. Glenn's travels into space were in the spirit of friendship, and it's only fitting that during his shuttle flight, he was part of a multinational crew, underscoring the bond that had been achieved for countries that take part in spaceflight. Glenn flew with astronauts Chiaki Mukai, the first female astronaut from Japan, and Pedro Duque, the first Spanish astronaut. The spirit of friendship was alive and well on this mission, as it has been on the shuttle and space station flights. Since you're here, why don't you let me know what you think of the podcast by leaving a review in iTunes? It takes just a minute to do that, and it makes a huge difference because it helps even more people find the show. As always, the show notes have more information on today's episode. You can connect with me on Instagram and Twitter. Find me at John Molnix. I'm always up to chat. You can also connect with me on Facebook. Just search for The Space Shot or click one of the links in the show notes. I'd also appreciate it if you could share The Space Shot with your friends and family and anyone else that enjoys podcasts. Tomorrow, the Flying Bedstead. I'm John Molnix, and I'll catch you on the flip side.